Hey everyone, Rob here. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how you can make more impact in your life, how you can actually get more things done, whether you're in business or whether you're in you're trying to career climb or you just have goals, and how you can actually move the needle forward in terms of productivity. And the reason why I want to talk to you about this is because this is a massive issue with people in entrepreneurship and people in business that I see, is that I get tons of messages in my inboxes, in my emails. I've worked with entrepreneurs, I've worked with business owners, and one of the key things of failing that I see is that basically people end up focusing on the irrelevant details rather than focusing on things which can actually move the needle forward. And I read a great book yesterday called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And he talks about this and talks about how to move the needle forward. And who Gary Keller is, he's the founder of Keller Williams, the largest real estate company in the entire world. It's valued at $2 billion. Gary Keller has 73% stake in that company, his own company. And he's worth his net worth estimated worth about 250 million. Pretty much a billion though when you take into consideration that he actually has a massive stake in his own company, right? And so if a person's worth over 100 million, I'm going to listen to them because, I'm humble. I want to learn from people who've been there and done that so I don't make the mistakes that these guys have made, right? I want to cut some years of growth and cut some time it took them to achieve their goals off my own timeline. So I want to talk about this book and how you can actually make more impact and move more things forward. Now, basically, in this book, he's talking about how things weren't going very well for his company, and he said that he was getting team meetings together and things, and he was giving his managers tasks and things, and nothing was really getting done. And what ended up happening is that he realized that people can't work with a split focus, and people just need to focus on one thing. Hence why the book's called The One Thing. And he said the best question essentially to ask yourself when you need to get something done or when you need to get your goals done is, I'm just looking at my notes here, what's the one thing you could do this week such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? So I'm going to say that sentence again because it's so important. What's the one thing you can do this week such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? And what we're looking at here is what action can we do this week which is going to make smaller tasks and other things irrelevant or unnecessary. So that could be are we hiring a person in a good place which can take care of potentially your admin tasks? Can you automate something which is going to actually free up a lot of your time? What's the big win that you can do this week which is going to impact you or your business or even your life, which is going to have a huge impact, which is going to spread onto other things? And the reason why this is so important is because, like I talked about at the start of the video, entrepreneurs have this weird thing, and I've done it as well, I'm guilty of this, of focusing on small irrelevant details which don't actually matter in the bigger picture. And I get questions all the time hey Rob, because obviously my business is based on LinkedIn, I help small businesses get leads. And I get messages all the time hey Rob, what's the specific message that you send to people that helps, get people to reply to you and gets people to do business with you? And I've released a LinkedIn course recently, and in it I teach foundations and strategy. And I teach you a little bit of tactics as well. So the exact script is tactics, but people focus so much on the tactics without really understanding the underlying foundations and the strategy. So, a tactic is, if I was going to go to the gym, what sort of gym gear am I wearing? What's the make of the dumbbells I'm picking up? What's the, and things like that, really. And if you focus too much on the tactics, you actually forget how to actually build muscle, how to actually diet properly, how what progressive overload is in terms of actually muscle growth and things like this. And you don't understand the foundations and the strategy. And when you don't understand the foundation and the strategy, Just using tactics on their own, they don't really get you anywhere. So what actually happens is when people focus on these small details, it actually leads them down like a path of failure. However, if you can ask yourself, what's the one thing that you could do this week such that by doing everything else, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? What's the one thing which is going to cancel out loads of tasks? So for instance, if I am in business and I'm reaching out to loads and loads of, people and clients and no one's responding to me, it could be like the messaging I'm using, it could be the emails I'm sending, but it could also be like the ideal client I've picked and like the offer I've picked for the market. And picking those things, the foundations, the strategies correct, picking the correct ideal client and then making sure my offer is really good for them. If I get those right, like everything else is going to fall into place. And that's really what it's about. It's making sure that everything else can fall into place by picking the correct thing. But this isn't just a question which you would use in like just that area of your life. You could use this question in your health, your wealth, your love, your happiness as well. So let's start with health. If you're potentially overweight, and what I see with people, because England's now like one of the most obese countries in the entire world, and what I see with people, I've got friends who are out of shape as well, who they focus on managing the symptoms that being overweight has caused. So for instance, like if they're getting achy joints, they can't, they're struggling to stand up and things like this. It's a bit extreme, but you get the example. They focus on taking painkillers to manage the symptoms. So that is not, the one thing which can eliminate everything else, right? What the one thing is that could eliminate everything else is actually taking care of the health, going on a diet, getting, a proper diet, losing some weight, and actually, exercising and, getting healthier, right? That's going to compound and it's going to be better in the long run. So that's like health. Wealth, picking the right business, going into it at the right time, learning from mentors. Gary Keller here talks about, let me just read this out to you. He's talking about a study of elite performers versus amateur performers, and he said the one thing which separated the elite from the amateur performers, because the amateur performers were working just as hard, they were just as smart, right? They were doing everything right as well, but the one thing that separated the elite performers versus the average performers is actually the elite performers actually sought out teachers and coaches and engaged in supervised training, right? So that is one thing which you can do, which is going to drastically, speed up the process of getting on the right path and doing everything right. So for instance, you can, get courses, coaches, mentors, teachers. I know some of you watch these videos and you send me really nice messages and say like how much this advice is actually helping you, either helping you in your business, helping you, in your life as well. And I don't class myself as kind of a mentor, but like, thanks, hopefully some people are getting some value out of that. You can also get books as well, very, very cheap way to learn some of these insights. So this book here, The One Thing by Gary Keller, who's worth most likely over $1 billion, who has $1 billion worth of advice of how he built his company, right? That cost me a single dollar on Kindle to actually get this ebook. If you go to the Kindle marketplace right now, it's like 99 cents or something like that. At least it is here in England. And it cost me $1 to get all this great information, which is going to cut time and years off my life, because I don't have to then fail and learn. I can actually just learn without like the failing. I can watch other people fail. And Richard Dawkins talks about this in the book Selfish Gene, which everyone should read. It's a bit of a tough read, but you should try and get like the basis of what it's saying. And it's saying that animals who learn by failure all the time, don't actually last very long. Like they tend to get weeded out of the gene pool quite fast, because it's a bit of a myth, learn by failure. Yeah, you have to learn by failure, but if all you're ever doing is learn by failure, life's short, man. Like, what's the average life expectancy for a human being? 75 years old, something like that, around that age, and that's the average life expectancy. Now, I've got Gary Keller's book here, and he's almost, I think he's like mid-50s. I'm learning 50 years of advice and watching him fail, and then getting his learning lessons from that and then applying it to my own life. So that is like a great way of using a mentor, just like a book. So that's health, that's wealth. So that, you know, they're the one things that you could do for each of those. We've got love next. So love could encompass relationships, friendships, your network, your, you know, romantic partner. And it's like, what can you be doing in those things that will eliminate all the other problems? So even though I'm quite a social person, I'm also, you know, over the years, I've had to learn to become less proud. And this is actually kind of a bit of a downfall to my character, and I've learned it slowly. But because like I grew up with like a single mum, and you know, she had to look after me, I've kind of got this personality of that I have to do everything alone. I have to go at it alone. And when you have to go at it alone, yeah, you know, it might sound really good and make you feel really good, and you know, be a little bit prideful. But what actually happens is you actually, you know, cause yourself some pain down the line, because you're inflicting, basically, you have to learn everything yourself. Like I haven't, you know, there was places in my life which I didn't build up the right network of people, which I didn't build up the right friends. You know, I've got like a long-term romantic partner, but you know, some of the other areas I actually let go a little bit there over the years. So I've had to go back now and make sure that I've actually got good connections in business, and I've got a few good ones now. But this was a mistake that I made. But that's another one thing that you should be doing. You should be focusing on meeting really good people. You should be focusing on meeting mentors. You should be having a network which actually know more about things than you do, because you know, it's good to surround yourself with people on your level or even below you at all times and offer your own coaching and experience. But if that's all you're surrounding yourself with, then things are going to get a little bit difficult for yourself, because you need to be seeing people who are maybe 10 to 20 years in the future, who achieved goals 10 to 20 years higher than you, and simulating them and seeing like, oh, so that is possible, because it unlocks areas in your mind. There's this good book, it's called Total Recall by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like kind of like his autobiography. And he talks about like how basically he was lifting like 300, he had like an amazing physique, but he could not grow his calves. And he was lifting like 300 pounds in the gym and trying to like grow his calves and get them more muscular. And he just couldn't do it. And he said that he was lifting like really heavy weight, they just weren't growing. He tried everything. And basically what happened is he went to a person in America who was also a bodybuilder, who had really great calves. And he shadowed him for a little while and got him to teach Arnold how he was doing it. And basically what this guy said was like, how much are you lifting, Arnold? And Arnold was like 300 pounds. And he was like, you need to be lifting heavier than that. Arnold was like, what, like 350? And this guy was like, no, you need to be lifting like 1,000. And it blew Arnold Schwarzenegger's mind. He didn't think like you could do things like that, which is that heavy, right? And this guy, you know, sure enough, did calf raises of 1,000 pounds, right? That's a lot of weight. And straight away, Arnold went and did that as well and simulated him, copied him, under this guy's supervision, and he also grew his calves as well. Now, the point of that story is that if you like surrounding yourself with people who are like 10 to 20 years ahead of you or have achieved things you haven't, it actually unlocks something in your mindset as well, and you start thinking, hey, you know what, I can do that as well. And it puts you in that weird place where you're like, you know what, I can actually do that as well. So that's something you want to aim for. So like health, wealth, love, The same with like friendships, relationships. If you've got a bad relationship with somebody, you're in a bad relationship, they're getting you down all the time and things are you're just arguing all the time, right? Guess what type of like work performance you're gonna have? It's gonna be pretty bad, right? It's gonna be pretty bad. You wanna have somebody you can get on with and actually share things with. And whether you want to just date around or whether you actually, have a long-term partner, like you want to make sure it's kind of the right thing, right? And you're not unhappy with what you're doing. So the final one is happiness. Now, all of these kind of go into, happiness and making sure that you're content. And I think for a while, being happy was something which actually, escaped me, right? And how I learned to get around it is make sure that you've got goals, make sure that you're on your path. I want to build a $100 million business. That's what I want to do. And when you have like your purpose and you're purpose driven like that, I have lots of different goals. Everything else kind of falls into place. So for instance, like I've got my health goals. I used to do like combat sports, I used to do kickboxing, MMA, and I kind of got out of the habit of doing that, but I also picked up like the habit of going to the gym and building up muscle and things. So now I do cycles of bulking and cutting. That's good goals right there, right? I eat very clean because I love how my brain feels on it and how I can just, be more social and get more stuff done when I'm thinking a lot cleaner. I constantly want to find new connections in the entrepreneur space. I've got people reaching out to me each week who are wanting to do something together or either wanting for me to coach them and things like this. So I've got like little different goals in each area, and that kind of comes around to happiness, which makes me happy there. Money is not always correlated to happiness. Like the studies show that after about 80 grand a year, which would be probably in England, that's 80 grand US dollars. Probably in England, that'll probably be about 40 grand. Like happiness kind of tailors off. Like you can pretty much do everything in your life with, that sort of income that per year that you could even with like $1 million. Like it's incremental, the changes. If you were to have like $1 million versus like an 80 grand year, sure, you might have to save up a little bit to go on an extra holiday. Realistically, you wouldn't have to save up that long, providing you got no kids or things. The income could vary a little bit there. But what I'm saying is like money isn't always the key to happiness. Usually it's like purpose and passion. So that's where you really need to start there and make sure you got your purpose and passion, your goals, your mission, things that truly make you happy doing it. So there are some of the one things which you can actually do which move the needle forward. So let's have a look here at some other notes that I've got from this book. Here's one thing right here. Mark Twain agreed with Dale Carnegie and described it this way: the secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret to getting started, which is most entrepreneurs' biggest problem, is breaking down your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable tasks and then starting on the first one. So I think this is just a human nature thing as well, but like, say I want to make $1 million. I'll give you my actual goal of, having a $100 million company, right? So if I was to say, right, take me from where I am now to a $100 million company, like you just can't even, it's hard to get there. And what happens is when it's hard to get there and you can't envision the path, you end up just getting stuck and you end up like not starting at all. And as a result, like nothing gets done. The goal doesn't actually get achieved. But what happens is, so I want to start a $100 million company, okay, or like run a $100 million company at some point in my life. What do I need to do to get there? What would the path look like? Well, let's look at what I'm doing now. So how would I do that? Well, I'd need clients, right? I'm not, even if I was signing clients all day and all night, I'm still not going to get to 100 million, right? And the reason why is I haven't got enough time in the day. So let's backwards engineer this a little bit. What do I need to do? Let's keep breaking this down. Well, I need to hire people to help me get there or have like automated processes, definitely automated processes and hire people. So let's look at hiring people. What do I need to do to hire people? Well, I need significant amount of revenue per month to hire really top talent. I can't hire bottom talent because they won't help me get there, but I need to hire top talent. So I need significant revenue per month. So when we actually break it down, you actually see my goals are much smaller than this. Well, I need to get to the significant revenue per month to actually hire the first person. So how can I do that? Well, I can use systems automation. And you see how we're breaking this down and we're following it right back. I want to get to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. At this current moment right here, I have like 241 subscribers to this channel. So how can I break that down to get to 100,000? Well, I need to probably post more consistently. I've had a lot of projects on at the moment, so I've not really been posting very consistently. I need to interact with my audience a little bit more. I probably need to make better quality content that actually helps people. And this is what I'm aiming to do with this video, for people to actually get some help out of it. And I need to just keep doing that over time and then seeing where like the trajectory takes off. You know, I need to look at other people who've got over 100,000, probably like 1 million subscribers, and see what tactics they're doing, see what they know that I don't know. Remember, we're simulating other people. And these come down to the one things that I should do, which will help everything else, right? So when you break it down like this, it's very, very easy to actually start with your goal setting and then start moving forward and actually creating a bit of momentum and getting the important things done. Now, at the start, I was talking about like how entrepreneurs makes tasks up. You know, I'm guilty of it as well. I remember when like I started my first business, I focused on my website, I focused on like business cards, I focused on creating all these things. I focused on like tons and tons of things, focused on like my product offer, exactly what it looked like, and then built it out without getting a single client. And I did this because I was focusing on the irrelevant things. And if I was to ask myself this question right here, what's the one thing I could do this week such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? It probably wouldn't be starting a website. It would probably get a bit of revenue through the door to actually like help with everything else, right? And not waste all my time. And that ultimately, that's like the ingredients of a business, isn't it? If you haven't got like there's that saying, like if you haven't got any revenue in your business, it's a hobby, not a business. So that's like definitely the question that you should be asking yourself. So you should write that down. Pick this ebook up on Kindle for 99 cents or 99p, depending on where you're from. And then you can focus on actually being more productive and having more impact in the day, as opposed to working on all the little things, spending 12 hours a day on absolutely nothing, low value activities, which don't move the needle forward, which make you feel good inside and give you that sense of busyness and that you're actually getting things done. Because your brain's just tricking you, remember? You're not actually moving forward. So question and evaluate yourself. There's another thing this book talks about, is actually measure like where you're up to on your goals each week and each month. I do it weekly with an accountability partner. I highly recommend everyone pair up with somebody who's as motivated as them, or who's either, you know, the same level of success as them or a little bit more than them, to essentially keep them going and to check in with them and to ensure that they're all on their same goals and making sure they're hitting them as well. And then you could talk about like what went well in the week, what didn't go well, what needs to be improved on, were you distracted, why were you distracted, and break it down with the person who also has similar interests in you. You know, I can try and break things down with like my partner, my girlfriend, and she's just not interested in that sort of stuff. So like, I don't really get much benefit out of it. However, my accountability partner, who's doing a lot of money per month running an agency, he's interested in this sort of stuff and he wants to improve himself. He also wants me to improve as well. And the feeling is reciprocated, right? I want him to do well and I want him to, we challenge each other. We say, you know, should we be thinking bigger? That's another thing this book talks about, is that people waste time. They end up in mediocrity. They end up not doing things to the fullest. And when we fear big, we either consciously or subconsciously work against it. So don't fear big, fear like mediocrity, fear waste. And Grant Cardone talks about this in his book 10X. Take whatever goals you have right now and 10X them. So you want to, put on a kilogram of muscle, make it 10 kilograms of muscle. It changes your thinking. You want to make an extra 1,000 a month, make an extra 10,000 a month. Changes your thinking because your brain's like a problem solving machine, and then it starts to think, how can I do that, right? It starts to work out like what path it's going on. And the problem is with like thinking small and being too restricted is that you don't unlock that thing in your brain. You don't unlock that thing which pushes you. And it's that old saying, if you shoot for the stars, you might land on the moon. Whereas if you shoot for the moon, you might land back on like Earth. So shoot as high as you can, 10x your goals to the point of where it's uncomfortable, and then go for it anyway. And then you might end up being a little bit disappointed, but the thing is you'll have achieved the original goal when you do that. So I hope this is really, really helpful. I certainly found this book really helpful. I would definitely pick this up. Be humble, learn from people who've made 100 million. This guy's worth over $1 billion, no doubt. Learn from these people because, if they're worth over 100 million and you're not, the data doesn't lie. There's something they're doing very differently. And they also started with 0 one day as well. So remember that, like it's very, very possible. Well, this is very interesting for you. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions, and thanks for listening. See you in the next one.